Hi, Jason. Welcome to the Power Talk show powered by Business Talks Weekly. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining us today. So, before we start our conversation, I just want to understand from you, from a musician to a digital marketeer, how was your journey and what inspired you to build a personal branding company?
Yeah. Well, in fact, the musician was my original career that lasted 10 years, maybe. And then I made cartoons for kids, where I also wrote songs. So I was still a musician. And that's how I transitioned, is that when I exited the company up to 10 in 2011, I wanted to pivot to digital marketing and realized that when people Googled my name, Google showed a result that prioritized my career as a voice actor. So it effectively said Jason Barnard is a cartoon blue dog. And that lost me, I would imagine, hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million in revenue. So what I realized is that Google is my business card. As an entrepreneur, as somebody out there trying to get the clients, I talk to somebody face to face. I convince them they want to work with me, and especially in the B2B space, they Google me, or now they ask ChatGPT. And what Google or ChatGPT say about us at that critical moment is absolutely vital to signing the deal. It can make the difference between that $1 million deal and not getting the $1 million deal, or worse, sending it to your competitor. So I solved my own problem. I figured out how I could get Google to show the message, the brand narrative about me that I wanted. Serious entrepreneur, incredibly well respected, experienced digital marketer. And once I did that, the clients rolled in, that bottom of funnel prospect converted much more often. And since then, I suppose I've made millions of dollars as opposed to failing to make millions of dollars, and realized as I did that and the money started rolling in that all entrepreneurs in the B2B space have this problem. Their personal brand is very often leading the line in terms of the company's reputation and what people feel about the company. And in the B2B space, that's very, very, very powerful. So managing what Google and AI say about you is fundamentally important if you're using your personal brand to drive business for your company. In addition, what I found interesting was that it was much easier for me to build my personal brand to be very visible in Google and now ChatGPT and Gemini and Copilot and Perplexity. Much easier for me to do that as a business owner and a business leader than it has been for the company. Corporate brands are harder to build in the minds of Google and AI. So I would also suggest if you have a company that's growing, using your personal brand to drive revenue, drive the reputation of the company forwards very quickly,
Makes
then
sense.
build the brand of the company. And eventually what happens is you can lead the line. In my case, for Kalicube, my personal brand gets about 80% of our business. But little by little, that 80% is dropping, and it will drop and drop and drop and drop and drop until it becomes 20%. And the company's reputation is driving 80% of the business. But that will take time because a corporate brand reputation online, especially in AI and Google, is much longer and slower to build than a personal brand.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, as you mentioned, Kalicube, can you give us a walkthrough about what you do with Kalicube and who are your target audience?
Yeah, we can help corporations and business leaders, but we focus on the personal brand of business leaders because that's where we're strongest and that's where the biggest return on investment comes. So an entrepreneur watching this who is investing already in their personal brand by doing podcast appearances like this one, perhaps writing a book, perhaps they have their own podcast, perhaps they're posting articles on Forbes or even on LinkedIn. If you're investing your time, your money, your effort, and your headspace into your personal brand online, what we can do is number one, make sure you're focusing on the right things at the right time by building out rolling out rather, a logical digital marketing strategy, but we can also amplify the work you're already doing through the lens of Google and AI. If you think about ChatGPT, Google, Bing, Perplexity, they're actually recommendation engines. People go to these engines to get recommendations to the solution to their problems or the answer to their question. So they become the biggest influencers in the world. They're having trillions of niche conversations with billions of people every single day. And those people are trying to solve a problem. And if you're the solution to the problem they're trying to find, you want to be part of one of those trillions of conversations with billions of people. You want to be top of mind for the algorithm when that conversation happens between the person who has the problem and the recommendation engine that has the influence to push that person to you as the solution to their problem, recommend you as the best solution in market to to their problem.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Jason, I read you mentioned a lot about brand SERP. Can you explain a bit more about brand SERP and how do leaders and corporate brands leverage brand SERP?
Yeah, the brand SERP is a search engine results page for your brand name. And that's what I call your Google business card. And that was the problem I solved back in 2012 was my Google business card said Jason Barnard is a voiceover actor for a cartoon blue dog. And I designed my Google business card, the brand SERP, to say Jason Barnard is an experienced and respected digital marketer and an entrepreneur. So the brand SERP, the search engine results page for your brand name, your personal name, your corporate name, is the representation of Google's opinion about you and what it thinks is important about you. So Google your own name now. Number one, see if you're important enough to have a brand SERP that features you, because you probably share a name with multiple other people. Number two, is it accurate? Number three, is it convincing? And the modern equivalent of the brand SERP is the ChatGPT or the Gemini or the Perplexity result when somebody asks, who is Jason Barnard? Or who is Navin Shetty? Because the follow-up question to that, if somebody's thinking about doing business with you and they're doing due diligence on you, is, can I trust him? Is he actually the authority he says he is? And what that machine, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Google, Gemini, Google AI mode now, what that machine says at that moment can win or lose the deal for hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars.
Makes sense. Absolutely. So you mentioned about AI tools and AI platforms, right? How difficult it is, or how can a brand stay relevant to make sure that they are cited as sources in a generative search engine result?
Yeah, it's a great question because the SEO community, the search engine optimization community, is gradually moving into this space. And it turns out I invented it. I built Kalicube Pro and I created the Kalicube process, which is the solution to exactly that. How to get into generative search, how to get into AI assistive engine answers. So generative optimization at its foundation is how do you get the machines to understand who you are, what you do, and who you serve, to believe you to be the most credible solution in market, and to present you to the subset of its users who are your audience whenever they're searching around your topic. So the solution is what we call understandability, credibility, deliverability. And the understandability, strangely, is the bottom of the funnel. Credibility is middle of the funnel. Deliverability is top of the funnel. Deliverability means they have the material from you to be able to present you to their audience. For example, this podcast could potentially be used as a cited source when somebody's researching B2B marketing. That's top of funnel awareness. Middle of funnel is when somebody says, well, actually, I need to manage or optimize my personal brand for generative AI or for AI assistive engines, if you prefer. Who should I talk to? At that point, the AI, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Google AI mode will give you a list of the experts it recommends. And that will include me. That's the consideration phase. If I can be in that list, I'm in with a chance. I mean, the person's already seen my name. They see that the machine trusts me. I've got the credibility that the machine believes in. And because they're using the machine like ChatGPT, because they trust it, of course, that's a very, very, very positive recommendation. And then if they say, okay, when push comes to shove, who should I choose? That's the critical moment of decision. And that's why understandability is there at the bottom of the funnel, because the machine will recommend the expert or the company that it understands the most and has the most confidence in its understanding of who they are, what they do, and who they serve, and that they are indeed the most credible solution to that specific problem. So that confidence in understanding is the bottom of funnel perfect click moment when somebody comes through to your website and converts. And
Yeah,
that's an
makes
interesting point. The perfect click is we've always worked with search engines like Google and Bing, and even potentially ChatGPT with the wrong mindset today. The mindset has now changed, because rather than trying to get in front of the person, get them to your website, get them to read your content, potentially sign up to your newsletter, and they keep going down the funnel by going between websites and search and onto social media. It's very, very, very messy. All of a sudden, AI has made this very clear and very clean. The funnel is built into ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, AI mode, because you talk to the machine, you ask a question, follow up with another question, follow up with another question, and in the end, you come down to the bottom of the funnel when you say
yeah.
to the machine, who do you recommend? Hopefully, it says you. And with Kalicube, we get so many sales calls booked through people booked by people who have come through ChatGPT or Perplexity. And when they get on the sales call, they say, well, I asked ChatGPT and it said absolutely Jason Barnard or absolutely Kalicube. And those are the easiest sales calls. Somebody comes in, they
Wow.
say, I know what you do. I know what I want. ChatGPT has explained it all to me. ChatGPT recommends you. How much does it cost? How long does it take? Easy sales call.
Wow, wonderful. So, Jason, I believe Kalicube is into a SaaS model.
We've now closed that, because the Kalicube Pro SaaS platform that I built, it has 3 billion data points. Please put that in the show notes. We have a proprietary tech layer, and we have algorithms that I wrote myself that ensure that we can figure out exactly what it is that needs to be done to educate these machines, because that's what we're doing. We're educating the machines like they were children. We're educating them about who we are, what we do, who we serve, and why we're the most credible solution. If you can do that, you've won the game. And Kalicube Pro semi-automates that whole process. The problem we had was that traditional SEO agencies, digital marketing agencies, and traditional PR agencies couldn't understand the philosophy and the process behind it. And the Kalicube process, which is our process of understandability, credibility, deliverability, that gets you the visibility you want in generative engines, in AI assistive engines, that Kalicube process is implemented automatically by Kalicube Pro. So we only use it for our clients. So if you want
Understood.
the Kalicube Pro power, you have to be a Kalicube client. You can't get it through any other agencies at the moment.
Understood. Makes sense. Got it. So, Jason, can you tell me if a brand, a corporate brand or an individual brand, when they reach to a higher number in the SEO rankings or even in search generative AI rankings, how difficult is for them to have a sustainable growth, and what would be the continuous changes they need to make into their communication to stay relevant?
Yeah, well, the term rank doesn't really make sense anymore, because we're not ranking, we're being cited. So we're more in a question of what I call brand trigger phrases. So if you can put that in the show notes as well, I would appreciate it.
Yeah,
Brand trigger
definitely.
phrases is any query by the user, prompt by the user, or response from the machine that includes the brand name. Because if I ask a question, who's the world leading expert in Google Knowledge Panels? And it says Jason Barnard, because he's been doing it for years. John Mueller from Google said that nobody outside Google knows more than Jason Barnard does about Google Knowledge Panels. That is a brand trigger phrase. The person didn't ask my name. They asked who was the world's leading expert. And it triggered my brand. So it's brand trigger phrase. And then if somebody says, would you recommend Jason Barnard for online reputation management as an entrepreneur? And the machine says, yes, I would recommend Jason Barnard. He's absolutely the best person because he has Kalicube Pro, this amazing software with a tech layer and 3 billion data points, that's a brand trigger phrase too. The trigger is the person's query, and I'm also included in the answer. So the point about ranking in generative AI, in AI assistive engines, as I call them, is to get your brand cited either by the user or by the machine. You need to be introduced to a conversation. So the concept of ranking doesn't work. The concept of topic of conversation within your specialized sphere makes absolute total sense.
Makes sense. Got it. So, Jason, can you tell me few points? How are you training Kalicube Bro's knowledge graph? To have a more self-training approach. How is it learning the digital footprint of a person's identity to build that brand?
Well, it's actually the same system we've always used and that AI and Google and Microsoft use. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm using the same systems that big players like Google, Microsoft, ChatGPT use. I use the web. I read the web, I crawl the web, and I figure out your digital footprint. And then I can identify your digital footprint, and we can work together as my client to optimize that so that it's understandable by the machines. And then we install a tech layer underneath that holds it all together so that the machine has a very consistent message with very consistent sources over time. And that's what wins you the game. If you can hold all the pieces of your digital footprint together for the machines will reward you by recommending you to the subset of their users who are your audience in those trillions of conversations that they're having every single day with people who trust them to recommend the best solution.
Can you tell us what are the biggest misconceptions the brands are currently talking about or facing in terms of AI and generative AI?
One of the things that I see is more is better. But that's always been a problem with brands, is they think, personal brand or corporate brand, the more I produce, the more I get talked about out there, the better it is for me. I would argue that more is only better if more is well organized. So my advice is, before going out getting more brand mentions, articles about you, pushing more content out there as a personal brand or a corporate brand, optimize what you already have, which is what we do at Kalicube. Set that in stone, hold it together, make sure the machines understand, and then you can feed them. You can spoon feed them with all the information you want. And you can spoon feed them with information that's truly relevant and helps them, as I said, to introduce you to the perfect conversations with your perfect clients at the perfect moment when that client is ready to buy. But if you don't organize what you have already, more is going to make it messier, not better.
Wonderful. So, what advice would you give to a startup or a founder trying to build his identity to build long-term brand authority online?
I would say to anybody, whether you're a startup or a major corporation, if you value your personal brand online, create a personal website. All of these machines are looking for a central hub, the place online where you say who you are, what you do, who you serve, and why you're credible. And that's a personal website. It's not LinkedIn. That's rented space. It's not Twitter. That's rented space. It's not your company website because you might leave the company. And it's not you. They're looking for your voice from you, about you on, I would argue, owned space, which is your own personal website on your own domain. Start there and build up. Don't try to run before you can walk. Build that website. 2 pages is absolutely fine, a homepage and an about page, and start building your personal brand out from there, making sure that the machines understand that that is the place they will find all the information about you that's important in a very clear, consistent, simple, easy to digest format. Because in fact, the machines have the problem that your digital footprint is very fragmented. And if you give them the proper version, let's say you've smashed a plate and they've got all the pieces of the plate and they're trying to put it together from all around the web. If you give them the completed plate puzzle, then they can see how it fits together. You can't lie and they'll figure that out because your digital footprint won't support the lie on your website. But if you give them an honest representation of that broken plate put back together completely properly, the machines will look at it and they'll say, okay, I understand. Now I can piece that together from all the information I've got around the web. I now believe this person. And that's when you can start spoon feeding them. And that's when you get real power. And I'll give you an example of that is 3 months ago, I realized that I'm one of the world's leading online reputation management experts, but I've
Wonderful.
never talked about it. The reason I'm an expert is because I optimize brand SERP, search engine results page for brand names, and knowledge panels. And in effect, what online reputation management experts do is get rid of the bad news on page one when somebody searches your name. That's pretty much it. So I was able to spoon feed the algorithms that because I'm an expert in brand SERPs, because I'm an expert in knowledge panels, and people from Google have said that I know more than anybody else in the world about this, I am therefore an expert in online reputation management. And I have been doing this for 13 years. So by definition, I'm a world leading expert. And if you now search on these machines or ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google Gemini, Google AI mode, I regularly come up in the top experts. And that's an example of how you can spoon feed these machines. It's true, I am a world expert in online reputation management. And please put that in the show notes.
Definitely.
It is true that I'm a world leading expert in online reputation management, but the machines didn't know it because I hadn't expressed it that way. Once
Yeah.
I express it that way and it makes sense, the machines believe me because it's true, and I become one of the world's top experts in the space of a couple of months.
Wonderful. Makes sense. And absolutely very knowledgeable. So one final question, Jason. What would you like, if you look back at your journey, what one thing would you have done differently that you right now you know?
Nothing. I've had 3 amazing companies as an entrepreneur. They all still exist. They're all still profitable. They have a cumulative 66 years of profitable existence. So I've created great companies that have legs. I'm only with Kalicube now. I started with WTPL Music. That's still going. I then moved on to Up to 10 Limited. That's still going and making money. Now I'm at Kalicube. And although I made mistakes in each of those 3 companies, I wouldn't change any of the mistakes I made because I wouldn't be where I am today if I changed any of that. So that's also a philosophical question about going back in time and changing things. And Kalicube, for me, is fundamentally important to marketing, but not actually to the world in general, because how AI understands and represents you is going to be an existential problem for everybody. Everybody who has a digital footprint, and that means everybody, needs to think about how AI understands and represents them. And that's why we give it away for free here. If you go to kalicube.com, kalicube.com/guides, you can download our processes for free. Because I want to empower people who want to take control of how Google and AI understand and represent them, because it's frightening how wrong these machines can get it. And it's exciting to see how much you can benefit when they get it right.
Absolutely.
And then we serve entrepreneurs who have already invested in their personal brand, who are time poor, who want us to do it for them, holding their hands, helping them along, and making sure that everything is done right and they get the best return on investment on every single cent they spend on their personal brand.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jason. It was a very insightful and knowledgeable conversation. I have learned a lot. Obviously, the audience will learn a lot as well. And thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you so much to you. See you soon, Nevin.